continuing with the presentation. So that reference object I have as a coin, but it can be changed to anything. Like if the company is if we can change it with gravity logo or anything, like a postcard of of gravity, anything, not just a coin. We just have to know the size of it beforehand. So now quality design. Now there are so many big companies doing amazing technology stuff, but we don't know their names because they don't have quality design. The main what I have experienced from the past few years, the main thing which makes a product famous or uh, big is not the technology behind it. It's the user experience it gives to the customer. Because if the user experience is not good, I'm sorry, is the screen shared?
Oh, not shared.
Not shared.
No shared. Just down the screen. Skype up.
Yeah. So main point.
Fukuda is there? No? Oh, okay, go ahead.
So the main point is to make the chatbot more give a good user experience so that it can be used by anyone, because this kind of a service will be used by elders and children and all people of all ages. So if I consider my grandmother, and if she wants to use it, then it should be so easy to use. It should have so many pictures, and it should have very small sentences so that she can read easily and click what she wants. So that's why quality design was very important in the development of this chatbot. So the basic architecture of the chatbot is I have used microservice architecture. So first, a little more information about what is microservices. So microservice is some kind of a small functionality of a very big product.
What does it mean, microservice?
Yeah, that's what I was explaining. Microservice is a small functionality of a big service. Like if I consider a car, and the engine is a microservice.
I'm sorry, engine?
If I consider a car, engine will be a microservice. It is a small part of the car.
I see.
Yeah, it is just a small functionality of a big product or a big program, computer program. So that we call it microservices. So, but I will tell you how is it different from a car. Because
my question is this: is the name of the software?
No, it's just a kind of practice we use. So like if we remove the engine from a car, the car will not work. Yeah. But in the microservice architecture, if we remove a microservice, the product still works. The chatbot still works. So we use microservice architecture because if my chatbot is running and because of some problem, one function starts to give some problems and it crashes, I don't want my product to crash, because there is possibility that most of the people would not be using that function. So it should still work for the other functions. That's why we use microservices. That's why it's called microservices, small services. So we have different small
kind of designing architecture.
Yes.
It is common idea, right?
Yes. Yeah, it is very common idea, because everyone wants their product to work. If maybe because there is a small functionality which no one uses, but accidentally it gets crashed. We don't want our product to crash, because that functionality was not even being used. So we use our microservice architecture so that every service is having is hosted somewhere else. So if one stops, still everything else works fine. So my technology stack.
そうです。
It's okay. So my technology stack, which I am using, for the server, I am using Heroku and DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean is just like AWS. The main I use DigitalOcean is because for students it is free.
DigitalOcean, which company is making for this software?
It's US company. It's just like AWS, but it is free for some time for students.
AWS is chargeable, so this
Yeah.
is free.
AWS is also free for first $300, but
Oh.
I have to use more, so that's why I use DigitalOcean.
Yeah, okay.
And I used Heroku. Heroku is a is a web application hosting service, which is free for small applications for not more than 2,000 or 3,000 users. So Heroku is also free for small applications. So as this was just a prototype, we didn't have many traffic coming, so I just used a free service like Heroku. Then the framework I explained before, the framework I explained before in Python application, I used Django framework. It helps me to integrate the WSGI server and my Python application all together. And then the PostgreSQL database. I used PostgreSQL database because it is very easily configurable with Heroku and DigitalOcean. With Heroku and Django, so that's why I used PostgreSQL. Then for the image processing algorithm, dimension detection, I used OpenCV, computer vision. And the natural language processing, I used API.ai, which is now renamed to Dialogflow. So now it is renamed because it got Google bought API.ai and they renamed it to Dialogflow. For DevOps means for code management, I used GitHub for version control, and for automatic testing I used Travis CI. So this is the whole tech stack I'm using.
Oh, just a moment.
Sorry.
Please go back. Heroku has a function for the automatic test.
Here-
Heroku.
May-
But why use did you choose this CI tool?
because my image processing algorithm is not hosted on Heroku. Heroku just hosts websites.
No.
But this image processing algorithm was a machine learning algorithm, for which I had to use another server, DigitalOcean.
No.
So for DigitalOcean and Heroku to work, because they are in microservice,
No.
so to both of them work, I had to use Travis CI to check if both of them are responding. That's why I used Travis CI.
Thank you.
Code quality and management. So I just explained I used code quality. For code version control I used GitHub. So there is a practice in our, what do we call it, in Python programming, which is called dry. Means don't repeat yourself. If I have written some kind of code which can be reused, so I will perform that. I will use that for various functions. So it is a function based programming in which you make small functions which can be used multiple times. So that's we call it dry paradigm. Don't repeat yourself. It increases the flexibility of code. If I want to add more functions, I can add it very easily in less time. And the framework which this whole Django framework is based on is MVC, which means Model View Controller. Model View Controller is something like, model means your database, view means your front end, and controller means your back end. So the controller helps us to integrate between the model and view, the front end and the database, because it is a dynamic program, and every time we have to give a different response. So that's why model view controller framework is used in Django. It is for dynamic web apps. And I also wrote the documentation which Uno-san was asking before. So they're like, I'll just like to show. This is just fully written by me to make the code more explanatory, so that if some new developer wants to contribute or make changes, he can do easily. So these are the modules my chatbot has. If I click on one module, these are the functions in that module, and they have a small description of each function, like this API AI implementation data intercept is a function which which passes these parameters, and the function intercepts this is just a description of what the function does. So if a developer or an engineer would look at this, he would get a very good idea of how to make changes to the bot and how this bot is built. So this is our documentation. So testing and continuous integration, there are two types of testing in web programming. There is black box testing and sandbox and white box testing. There is also sandbox, but that is just a different case. So black box and white box testing. So what we in black box testing, what we do is we just test the program without the surroundings. That's why it's a black box. It can't see what's happening outside. So and in white box we test the program with surroundings. So I am implementing testing in both areas, black box and white box. Black box is important because it tells us exactly where the problem is. White box is important because it tests the integration of the program. So I'm trying to do both kinds of testing, and I've used Travis CI, the continuous integration tool, which helps me to set up testing environment which automatically tests. So this is a screenshot from Travis CI. Here it just says, like, if you see a little blurred version here, that it says build passing. It means that my program is passing. Whatever changes I made, it has been passed and pushed to the main server. And messenger bot application, this is also passing. So this is just a screenshot. If I make some changes which crash my application, it will say build failed, and there will be, instead of green, it will be red. So that's how the continuous integration works. Scalability and deployment. So as if you want to scale, and if this program is used by a company who has a lot of users, then this can be scaled. Instead of Heroku, we have to deploy it on AWS or Google Cloud or some kind of dedicated Apache server, so that we can handle a lot more requests, because Heroku is just a free service and it does not provide that much it does not accommodate to that much traffic. And this is the database structure which I'm using. Actually, it's not a little clear, but it is because as we want to place a lot of orders, we want to, maybe I can just show you from here. Yeah. So as I have a lot of tables in my database, like I want to store addresses, I want to store is the screen shared? Yes, I think so. Yeah. So there are a lot of classes, like I want to share I want to save addresses, I want to save countries, I want to say language, I want to save mode of contacts, I want to I want to save orders for the company, I want to save what types of boxes are there in the shipment process. So everything will be saved in a form of normalized database. With the help of normalize, I means normalization is a database process which makes the data less repetitive. We will not find repetitive data, so that it saves space on the server. So it is a very normalized database schema which I have prepared. So that from this I would like to end my presentation, and I would like to show you the live demo of the chatbot.